Hi! In honor of Women's History Month, I wanted to do a recommendation video of books that feature incredible, iconic, amazing, show-stopping, legendary, and very unhinged women. Because if there's one thing that I support other than women's rights, it's women's wrongs. You know that TikTok trend where it's like, looks like a cinnamon roll could kill you? Those are my type of women. All of these books are going to be fiction books. I don't have any nonfiction books on this list because I don't like to live in reality, but I did try to include as many genres as I could and as many different authors as I could. The further we get down the list, the more unhinged the women in these books become, which I love. Mind you, some of these books I read years ago, so I don't remember every single thing that happens in those books, but I remember the feeling that I had and the general vibe that I got from the book. And these are books that the women characters have stuck in my mind. And I think that is really what makes this list so good, is that these women are so memorable and have really stuck with me and made an impression on me even years after I read them. We're gonna start off tame, okay? The first book that I have is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I love this book because I haven't read a book where the main character lives a very average, normal, mundane life and is so content with it. This book is literally about the title, A Convenience Store Woman. The main character is Kiko and she's in her mid-30s. Yeah, 36 years old. She's never had a boyfriend and she's been working in the same convenience store for 18 years. Could you imagine? 18 years. Everyone in her life has been telling her, you need to get a better job, you need to get married, you need to start having kids, settle down. And she's like, do I? Do I? Especially in Asian cultures, you don't see many characters or people in real life that are just content with the life that they're living, so far removed from society's norms. And the book is mundane itself, like there's not much going on, and I think that's just a testament to the character. Like there's nothing going on in her life, so not much goes on in the book. I just love that she stands firm on her beliefs and what she wants for her own life. She doesn't bend over backwards to make everyone else happy. She's happy in her convenience store. She's happy living her life. She's happy with her routine. What's wrong with it? All right, the next book that I have is How Not to Drown in a Glass of Water by Angie Cruz. This is a book about a woman named Cara. She is in her like mid-50s that she loses her job in the recession and has to meet up with a job counselor as part of this like senior workforce program to qualify for unemployment and also try to help her find a new job. The book is told in the different sessions that she has with the counselor that she's working with and goes through her life from immigrating from the Dominican Republic, moving to the States, raising her kids, her estranged relationships with her sisters and her family members, her neighborhood, getting gentrified. There's a lot that she goes through, but what I love about Cara is she is absolutely hilarious. She is so funny as a character. She's the type of person where like when shit is hitting the fan, you just can't help but laugh, you know? And that's exactly what she did. Everything in this book made me laugh out loud. And truly in your mid-50s, you can tell that you just don't give a fuck anymore. Like you literally don't care. Like the fact that she's in her mid-50s and she's like having to prove that she's qualifies to work and get a job, it's laughable to her. It's comical. I'll give you an example of like things that made me laugh. So for example, here you have like her job application and she puts under education and training, high school, the yellow house on the hill near the Colmado. Year graduated. I learned my numbers and letters. My teacher said I was the most intelligent. Degree earned, survival. Iconic. And then under college and university, name one that doesn't cost anything. Yeah, I mean, truly. And then it asks, what hours or shifts are you available for work? All the hours, all the shifts, except between 8 to 10 at night because I see the telenovelas, and not before 7 in the morning because I need sleep. After 10 at night, I am not so good. On Sundays, I like to clean and do laundry and visit Angela and Hernan and the children. I have to come home by 5 to make the dinner, but yes, I'm available all the hours. On what date can you start working if you're hired? Yesterday. It's just very heartwarming and endearing, and she's just a very chaotic, funny human being, and I loved reading this book. Definitely recommend. Okay, so would this be a list for Women's History Month without Miss Elena Ferrante on the fucking list? I don't think so. Days of Abandonment, an absolutely iconic book. This is about Olga, who is in her late 30s, and her husband leaves her for a younger woman. This was very humorous, but not in like a haha humorous way, but in more of like life is a fucking bitch humorous way. And Olga's downward spiral, the way that she unravels, brilliant. Being in her mind going through all of this, it literally, she thinks like a woman, she acts like a woman, and we love to see it. She goes through the 5 stages of grief after being abandoned by her husband. She also has 2 kids with this man. I can't with men, but anyway. So yeah, it's very short, but I do have to say Elena Ferrante's writing, absolutely phenomenal. Some of the best writing I've ever read in my life. And that's all that needs to be said. The next book on this list is Deva Shastri's Last Day by Kirthana Ramisetti. This is a book about a woman billionaire. I'm gonna say that one more time. This is a book about a woman billionaire. I haven't read many books where we have a main character that's a woman billionaire. There needs to be more. I'm tired of seeing these men billionaire. Women, take your money, rob these men. So Deva Shastri is one of the world's richest women. Like I said, she's a billionaire. I believe she's a music executive, or she like owns this huge music record company. She's in her 70s and she gets diagnosed with cancer, but no one knows it. So she's sick. She invites all of her kids and, you know, her grandkids and their spouses to their private island, where she breaks the news of being sick, but also announces that she is going to have the news announce her death before she's dead, because she wants to see what everyone in the world is gonna say about her. Iconic. There isn't a more iconic move than that. Announcing your death to see what people will say, what tributes they're gonna make, who's gonna come out of the woodworks. Girl, honestly, I would probably do the same. So let me read you this. As someone who dedicated her life to the arts and the empowerment of women, Deva expects to read articles lauding her philanthropic work. Instead, her death reveals 2 devastating secrets, truths she thought she had buried forever. And when I tell you these secrets were scandals, babe, not only does it go through all of her life, but you know, the family dynamics between her and her kids, each one has a different relationship with her. None of them are really likable. Like Deva's an icon, but she's also not really a likable person. I mean, they're billionaires. You know what I mean? And like, billionaires are so far out of our reach and are so just, I think, out of touch with the reality of what the common people experience. And you can definitely see that in the characters. Like, they are not living in our reality at all. And that, you know, makes them very unlikable at times, because they do come off as pretentious. And Deva herself, she does think about herself a lot. You know, I do think there were times where she put herself above her kids. Not in a, well, I mean, I guess you can consider it a selfish way, but it was also for self-preservation and just, you know, wanting to keep things to herself, her secrets and moments in her life that were just for her. But it ended up affecting her kids and her family anyways, and also the way that people perceived her, which her reputation was very important to her. But I thought it was very interesting to read a book where the perspective of a family that is in power and has money and has all this fame is a family of color. That hardly ever happens. It had a mix of like Asian family culture dynamics, but then also like rich family problems. Those 2 layers, like I've never read anything like it. Love this. The next book that I have involves a character with a very controversial lifestyle, which I don't even think it's really controversial, but it still is today. And that is Olive by Emma Gannon. Olive is the main character in this book. And the reason why I say it's controversial is because she is a child-free woman. And this book is all about her relationships with her friends and family, and how everything in her life as she's approaching her mid-30s, I know she's in her 30s, and how all those relationships and dynamics change as her best friends start to settle down, and she is exploring this idea of, I don't think I want to have kids, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I love that not only does it touch upon this topic of being child-free, but also how other people perceive that and other people's opinions of it, and how it affects the way they think about their bodies and they think about their fertility and they think about their future. She isn't with anyone. So, you know, she has friends that are married. She has friends that are in long-term relationships that are thinking of settling down. She has friends that are married that are struggling, like I said, with infertility. It didn't focus just on Olive. There was definitely a lot of friction between the friends because they all have very strong opinions and they are very set in their beliefs. Definitely appreciated the conversations that this opened up in terms of women that, you know, don't want kids. So like I said, A little bit controversial, but necessary, you know? Okay, the next book that I have is Bad Fruit by Ella King. This book, babes, talk about generational trauma. This book is about Lily. She just graduated high school. I believe this takes place over the summer before she starts college. She's going to Oxford. She has a Singaporean mother and a white British father. If you are someone that is triggered by mother-daughter relationships, do not read this because, oh my God, this portrayal of a tiger mom and her first generation daughter.
Wow.
It was like staring into a mirror at times, and it was, her mom is just very unhinged, very unstable, and takes a lot of her own trauma out on her daughter Lily. Her dad is very passive. He does whatever just to appease the mom. And Lily, of course, also kind of just suffers in silence to keep the peace between everyone and not create any problems or upset her mom more. And I didn't know this going in, but the author is actually a lawyer involved with anti-human trafficking and child abuse. The descriptions and scenes of abuse in this, not just physically, but also mentally, were so vivid and so real and gut-wrenching. Oh my God, like she got it so right. And this will break your heart, I swear to God. It does definitely give a very accurate portrayal of those abusive and emotionally manipulative family and parent-child dynamics and relationships. The generational trauma was fucking real in this one, but absolutely brilliant. The writing was incredible. I felt every single emotion, a lot of them not good, but I think books like these are important because they give that perspective and portray that relationship that a lot of people do not talk about, especially in Asian culture. So absolutely unhinged, generational trauma, we love to see it. Okay, now we start to get into more of like the scandalous, the ones with more drama, the books that if this happened in my real life, I would be gossiping to my friends about. So we're gonna start off with a bang. You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwake Emezi. First of all, this cover, stunning. This edition, absolutely obsessed. But girl, this book took me on an emotional roller coaster because so much happened. Okay, let's get into it. Basic gist of the story is the main character, Faye, her husband passed away. The story is about her going through her grief and moving on. Grief comes in all shapes and sizes, babe, okay? So we're not here to judge. We're not here to judge. But she ends up dating this guy who takes her to the island that he's from, and she ends up hooking up with his dad. I will hear no slander on this, okay? Because like I said, grief comes in all shapes and sizes. I mean, aside from the obvious elephant in the room, this was also just a very thought-provoking and emotional look on grief and loss. We make very questionable choices during those moments, but it isn't an attempt to ground ourselves, find our way back to true life, trying to make those connections and finding love again. Even though the situation and how she came about finding another person to love wasn't the best, the fact that she was able to open up her heart again and find love was very emotional and heartwarming, I have to say. And this is a very polarizing book. Like, I've seen so many people not really like this because of the character and her decisions, but you know, I'm not here to judge. Like I said, not only do I support women's rights, but I also support women's wrongs. And this is one of them. I'm gonna leave it at that. Next, we have Counterfeit by Kirsten Chen. This book is about two friends, Ava, who has this picture-perfect life with her husband and her child. She's a lawyer, her husband's a surgeon. It's giving Crazy Rich Asians. Underneath the surface, though, she's miserable, marriage is failing, child annoying. But yeah, and I feel like she's just like bored, you know? An old roommate of hers from college, Winnie, comes into the picture, and she remembers Winnie as like a whole hot, chaotic mess. Me. Winnie like dropped out of school for some reason and she never knew why, and then when Ava sees her again, Winnie is like dripping in designer, and Winnie reveals everything is counterfeit. And the reason why is because Winnie actually is like the queen of a counterfeit empire. Honestly, we love to see it. We love a sister scammer. We really do. And Winnie recruits Ava because Ava has a US passport and Winnie wants to do business in the States. Ava gets wrapped up in this world, and when I tell you the twists and turns in this had me gagged, I hope this gets turned into a movie or like a show or something, because this was so entertaining and fun, not based in reality at all. Well, actually, who fucking knows? This might be based in reality. But I mean, it's just a fun, like, good time. Do not take it seriously, because it doesn't take itself seriously. Like, this is not meant to be like a thought-provoking classic piece of literature. And like I said, we love a sister scammer. On that same note, next, we have Stone Cold Fox by Rachel Kohler Croft. We have our main character, B. Her mom was a con artist, conning men, scamming men for their money. She basically raised and taught B to be the same way, and so now B is picking that up and is now living her life as a con woman, conning these men out of their money. And like I said, we love to see it. I'm here for women's wrongs, especially if it means robbing men blind, okay? So she finds her perfect ideal husband. His name is Colin, some basic rich man. She's ready to make this the one that sticks, ready to settle down with him for life, milk him for all the money he's worth. The only setback that she has, though, is that Colin's friends and family do not trust her, which, I mean, good reason. They can spot that she's just leeching off of him. I mean, she's done this her whole life. This is what she was raised to do. This is what she was trained to do. Okay, this is her moment. This is her time. So she puts on the performance of her life. Colin's best friend is a woman named Gail. There does end up being like a cat and mouse chase between her and Gail, because Gail is out to get her and B is out to get her money, okay? And nothing's gonna come in between her and her money. And the things that unfold and the things that happen in this book, gagged. Again, this also needs to be turned into a movie or a show, because I would love to see the events unfold on screen. So like, I could not stop reading. Like, I wanted to know what was going to happen. Yeah, again, super fun time. Loved it. We love a sister scammer. We love a con woman. Read it. Okay, next is one of my favorite books of all time. This whole book feels like a fever dream, and that is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. This book is incredible. If you've never read this author's writing before, you're in for a wild ride, because her writing is poetic, like beautiful, lyrical, incredible. Oh my God, the amount of tabs that I have on here. Her writing is absolutely incredible. This book centers around a woman named Indigo, who is an heiress to this huge like fortune and empire her family built, and she has a home called the House of Dreams. Learns that her aunt that still lives at that house is dying, and so she and her husband go to help and take care of her. It's hard to describe like everything, because there's so much that goes on. Like, her husband, a lot of the book is actually in her husband's perspective, and in like him watching and learning about Indigo. One of the stipulations in their marriage that Indigo asked of him when they first got together was that he never ask about her past and never ask about who she is and like what happened before they met. He doesn't basically know anything about her life before they even like met. But once they go to this house, stories start unraveling. The plot twist in this was had my jaw on the floor, and just the atmosphere. There's magic realism in this. It's gothic, it's creepy, it's dark, it's, oh my God, it's so fucking good. Indigo as a main character, an absolute icon. She's an icon. She's so like sultry and mysterious, and she's just such an interesting character. I just thought the entire time, like, I want to be her. Like, I want to be her when I grow up. I just vibed with her. She's just like a vibe. And then when you find out like the plot twist and like everything that happens, you vibe with her even more. I have to read you a couple quotes. I need you to fully understand and grasp just how beautiful this writing is. This is from the 8th page when the husband first meets Indigo. Some individuals are like portals. The knowing of them makes the world a far vaster place. In Indigo's presence, my world widened, brightened. There was something about her that made the eye linger. It wasn't her beauty, it was the way she seemed superimposed on the room. A mirage that might vanish if I looked away. Stunning, iconic, no notes. Next, this is literally on the next page. In her kiss lay wonders, the humming of firefly wings and the secret of alchemy. On her tongue was the ghost of roasted plums, forgotten poems. I was so entranced that I almost didn't notice when she bit down. When I pulled back, her teeth looked rusty, and only then did I realize she'd drawn blood. No notes. Perfection. This book, incredible. Okay, so now we get to where the beginning of the more chaotic and unhinged books start. And starting off with Big Swiss by Jen Began. My reading experience with this was a wild one. I actually listened to this on audio, which I think made for a better reading experience because the narrator just brought these characters to life and delivered lines with the perfect amount of like deadpan humor that I don't think I probably would have gotten if I had read this physically, especially giving the characters in this book. So we're following Greta, who lives in New York, but she lives on like an island in New York, Hudson, New York. Oh, I think my Panera Bread's here. Greta transcribes therapy sessions for a sex coach. What a job. You know what I mean? Like, what a job. So that in itself, like, that's the jumping off point, you know? As she's listening to all these therapy sessions and transcribing them for the sex coach, she becomes obsessed and so entranced by one of the clients that the sex coach has and names her Big Swiss because she's this huge, tall woman from Switzerland. And then the story really takes off and just becomes absolutely unhinged when Greta hears Big Swiss in real life and then meets her at a dog park, and she basically involves herself in Big Swiss's life. And the events that take place after, it's just, it was so messy and I ate it up. Greta and Big Swiss form this friendship, relationship-ish type of situation, and just shit hits the fan from there. That's all I'm gonna say. Big Swiss is like, she has very dry humor and just like a dry, like deadpan personality. Like I said, that was so funny to me, especially the way that the narrator would deliver the lines that Big Swiss would say, just so like nonchalantly, very blunt. This was one of my favorite books I read last year. I really enjoyed it and I will read anything that this author comes out with. Also, this cover, I don't know if I've ever seen a cover that screams unhinged woman more than this fucking cover. So next we take it just a little step further in the chaos of it all, and we have Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. No notes on this book. This book was amazing. This book is about a woman named Irina who is a photographer. She photographs like very pretty boys, but she photographs them in the most like grotesque, obscene, inappropriate, not safe for work pictures. And then she auctions them off to her clients. Really taking matters into her own hands. Do you know what I mean? Like really sticking it to the man. She's narcissistic, truly, manipulative, and she treats men like the dirt under her shoes. And she really reverses the male gaze back to the men. She's iconic for that. She is not, I would say, morally the best character, but she is still so just witty and fresh and funny. She's still likable, you know what I mean? Like, even though, like I said, women's wrongs. We support women's wrongs in this household, and this right here is the epitome of women's wrongs. This book, honestly, like, it was written from the dark, deep depths of Tumblr. I don't really know how else to explain it, but if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. There are just so many discussions and topics that are explored in this book. The list goes on and on, but a plethora of trigger warnings for this book. All I have to say is read this book. It will change your life. For the better, questionable, for the worse, for sure, but it will change your life. Yeah. All right, the next book that I have is actually a mystery thriller book, and that is My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This book is about a married couple who, giving very much Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like they're both bored with their life, that they both start murdering people, you know, for fun. Like that's what spices up their marriage. That's what brings the romance. That's what brings the excitement to their marriage. Then the husband takes it one step too far, and the wife says, no, not in this household, babe.
I run the show,
not you. And basically this book is just her reminding him of that in every which way by emotionally, mentally, and physically manipulating him. And we absolutely love to see that. Giving very much if you cross me, I will kill you vibes. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like if you read a lot of mystery thrillers, you'll see the plot twist coming from a mile away. But me, I'm still kind of a beginner in that genre, so I didn't see it, but I ate it up. Plot twist gagged me. The wife, I don't even remember their fucking names in this book, but the wife, she I can't even like, I'm thinking of all the scenes and like the things that she did, and all I have to say is like, wow, iconic. If you think your girlfriend or wife is crazy, read this and she will seem like an absolute angel. But honestly, if your girlfriend or your wife is reading this and you see this on her nightstand, you see this on her bookshelf, you see this book in her hands, watch yourself. Proceed with caution, because she is plotting your murder. She is plotting your death. Guarantee you. But iconic, love it. Great time. All right, so we are nearing the end of the list. The last few books that I have are all in the romance genre, well, the dark romance genre. And I'm sorry about my dog, he's like barking in the back. And all 3 books, the female main character, an absolute badass, unbelievably unhinged. Like, this is truly the most unhinged. Like, we've reached the end of the spectrum, and this is the most unhinged characters that I have on this list. Starting off with Seventh Circle by Tate James. This is a reverse harem dark romance book. The female main character of this book, her name is Hades. She goes by Hades. Let's start there. She is the queen, the alpha, the ruler of the Timberwolves, which is like an underground gang crime syndicate that runs the town that she lives in. And when I tell you, she has every single man on his knees for her, not just her lovers, but also the men that work for her, and also the men in the rival gangs and the other like people in power in this town. She will literally slit your throat for breathing wrong. This is a 4-book series. Shit happens. She's the leader of a gang. So it's basically just a 4-book series of her, like all of like the drama and the action and the shit that happens. And then like her and her 3 lovers like going through it. So good. We love to see women in power. We really do. We really do. The next book that I have is Black Sheep by Alexa Harlow and Bryn Weaver. I remember distinctly when I read this in my birthday month last year in April. Phenomenal book. Absolutely phenomenal book. Now, this book is about Bria. She is a college student. I don't remember if she's studying for her master's or a PhD or if she's just getting her undergrad, but I know she's in school and university. She was born and raised in a cult. She was abused and all that, so she's taking out revenge on anyone in power and anyone that has to do with the cult. She wants to take the cult down. And her professor in school, he's not like those old, wrinkly, gross professors. He's like one of those hot young professors, rides a bike, tattooed, very unserious. But he is actually working as, I think, a consultant for the FBI to also take down that same cult that she is. She's doing it by killing people. He's doing it by working with law enforcement. You also have like student, teacher. It's so hot. Like I said, very unserious, but Bria is absolutely iconic, very unhinged, badass, morally gray. Like truly a morally gray character. This is about their romance and them taking down the cult together. The scenes in this book, and I'm not talking about the action scenes, I'm talking about like the sex scenes in this book, were some of the most insane I've ever read. All right. What actually got me to read this book was the first few sentences of the first chapter. Let me read it for you. This is the first line in this book. I don't always fuck a man before I kill him, but when I do, I find there's one thing that they all have in common. They're disappointing. That's all I have to say. That's it. That's all I have to say. The last book on this list. The most unhinged character of all, but one of my favorite characters of all time. And that is Lana Myers from the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. This is technically 5 books in one huge book, but I'm just gonna count this as a total because each book is so small. Basically, Lana Myers is a female serial killer killing men that abuse women and men that deserve to die. Lana is out for revenge and she's getting it and leaving a trail of blood in her wake. Okay, she's on a path of vengeance, also known as justice in her world. Violence is the answer in this book. She ends up falling in love with Logan, who actually works for the FBI. He, I think, is an FBI profiler, so giving very much Criminal Minds and Dexter. Their romance is actually so fucking sweet, and obviously he doesn't know that she is the serial killer that they are looking for because she's just that good. But oh my god, the way that their romance unfolds is just so sweet. I mean, she has been through so much, obviously. Otherwise, she wouldn't be taking down these men one by one. Revenge plot of the century. Absolutely obsessed with her. All right, so that concludes my list of recommendations of books with the most incredible, stunning, iconic, legendary women. If you have any recommendations for more unhinged women, I am always in the mood to read about an unhinged woman. Trust me. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!